hello. Welcome to Rise and Resonate. This is a podcast dedicated for those who want to lead with influence, make needed impact, and earn more income. I'm Alicia Pisani. I'm a motivational speaker, #1 international best-selling author, journalist. Thank you for joining Rise and Resonate, where we help leaders inspire the world. And today we have a guest that I am so honored to have on the show today. We are meeting with the real Ms. Abbott. She's the inspiration and namesake for the ABC hit show, Abbott Elementary. She's also an author. She inspires the nation with everything that she has done in her life. And Ms. Abbott, thank you so much for being on the show.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Now, I know that you're doing so much today as you've done throughout your entire life. You're such an inspiration to many. I am in New Jersey near Philadelphia, and I have an idea about what Philadelphia is like today. I myself grew up in an inner city, and so I just want to share my thanks and appreciation for all that you've done for the people you've inspired. I know you have a lot to share with us today. You have a book. Why don't you tell our listeners and viewers a little bit about yourself?
Oh, okay. And as you stated, I'm Joyce Abbott, combat war veteran, author, retired educator, the inspiration behind the name of Abbott Elementary. Very active in community and just continuing to inspire and be an impact in the field of education.
Amazing. Now, I'll just say that our educators don't get paid nearly what they deserve, but maybe you can share a little bit about what you got back in working with kids throughout your life.
Right. That is a very good point because educators definitely get paid way below what they're worth. But to answer your question, what I received was just the joy and the satisfaction of moving children academically and personally, and ultimately making a difference in their life. And when you make a difference in their life, they're making a difference in their families, in their communities, and in this world. So that is a big joy. That is a big reward, more than any paycheck. Although a higher paycheck would be great, but that is a definitely a big reward.
Yes. And now one of the things that we know is that kids that go through things grow up to be adults who are leaders. And so uh, when you were in your school and you had situations where you dealt with difficult situations or different people, and one of the places that I found this was on page 39 of your book. Her book is called Teaching the Ms. Abbott Way, Lessons in Learning, Leadership, and Life. And on page 39, you talked about a situation with a child, and you phrased this thing that says either continue being disruptive or you can make a change. That really spoke to me because not only is that good advice for children, but also for adults. And if we can recognize the things in ourselves that we're able to change, we can really make an impact on ourselves and those around us. Can you tell us a little bit about that chapter? It's called Understanding the Population You Serve.
Exactly. And that is so important. Understanding the population you serve, because so often, especially in our inner city communities and in our schools, the children, the environment that they grow up in is sometimes, not in all instances, the home life. Violence is there. You're hearing gunshots, you're hearing arguing, the profound language, and sometimes that's all you know. And when you go into the school, the educator that's placed before you, they're just charged with so much, but they're halfway responsible for helping you transform and knowing that it's a different way. It's a different way. And I just put in so much time because, number one, I did understand the population that I served. I was born in raised in West Philadelphia, the community in which I served, a product of the proud product of the Philadelphia school system. So I did understand really firsthand the struggles. But if you don't understand the outside factors that these students go through, like for instance, if a child, every time a door slams, if they're putting their head down, that is because of the trauma from hearing gunshots maybe all night. And when you understand that, you're more empathetic and reaching out and saying, well, maybe we can work together after school, before school, reaching out to that parent in order to ensure that child is successful. Because I've spoken with several students and this behavior has to stop, because you, in order for you to change your life, you want to be impactful to your family, impactful to your community, we have to change. And just giving them daily affirmations. But if you don't understand or have any understanding of what the students are experiencing outside of the classroom, it's can be extremely difficult to be impactful in helping them achieve.
Wow, that's amazing. Now, I know myself because I studied at Rutgers and then I worked with trauma impacted youth, and it's true that the reactions that a person or a child may have ties back to what they have gone through. And I imagine being a teacher, because I know with my own children and my own experiences, I've seen where some teachers get that. For example, my sixth grade teacher, his name was Mr. Robert Love Bethia.
Oh, wow.
And
Nice name.
I don't know if that was truly his middle name or not, right? But it may
Right,
have been
right, right.
part of what he was giving to us. And I was the minority in that school. And when I came into his class, the thing he taught us was teamwork. And he really leveled the field. He made us all feel like we were a team above everything. That was one of the greatest lessons that I learned in my life.
Mhm.
So, what do you have to share with teachers today around that of being, if you had one thing to tell teachers, and I know it's hard and you've got the book with a lot in there, what's one thing you might tell a struggling teacher today?
In reference to teamwork or in general, I can elaborate on both. First of all, and when you go into this work, we all understand it's hard, it's challenges, but you need to understand your why. You need to understand your why. Why did you choose this profession? Did you choose this profession for summers off with pay, or the hours are, good with your children? You could be home with them on holidays. Or did you choose this work to just truly try to make a difference and be impactful in life of a child? Because when you're truly passionate, because it's hard,
Mm.
but you're not going to give up as easy. And then going even back to the population you serve, because so often we go into this work and we may have that passion, but we don't even understand what we're walking into because we have no clue of the population that we serve. But when you understand both, because teaching in some areas may not be good for you, you may not even be able to be impactful because you have no idea of that community. But when you truly understand, and you're passionate, because I think people think that I've never got cursed out or had death thrown at me. That I have, but I had to remember my why. Why am I in this work? I am in this work to make an impact, to make a difference. And I'm not going to give up at the first sign of a struggle, but it is difficult. So I would encourage new teachers that this is a difficult profession, but encouraging yourself and understanding your why and finding supportive team members, because so often our new teachers are not supportive. People are saying, oh, they're not going to last, but they need support because you don't walk into this work great. You just don't. So they really need support, and try to find supportive, positive colleagues. Because you have to stay away from the negative ones. It's always complaining, because that can dampen your spirits and make you think like, do I really want to do this? If this person has been in this profession for so long and everything they're saying is negative, you have to try to group yourself with positive people and stay encouraged. Remember your why, learn from your mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. Don't be hard on yourself. Celebrate your small wins. As we celebrate our students' small wins, celebrate your small wins. Every day where you have made growth, celebrate yourself and encourage yourself, because it's not easy. I appreciate everyone in the profession because it's not
Mm.
easy.
Well, now I see why they loved you so much because that inspiration, that positivity is bound to make a difference. I
Mhm.
know that in life, especially when we have so many things today, like the COVID pandemic, the other pandemics we have, it's hard to stay strong and keep that encouragement. But I think that encouragement is something that you've been able to do all throughout your career. Would
Yeah.
you say that encouragement is something that was one of the key things that helped you to do your job so well?
Yes, especially encouraging myself because my first year I had very supportive colleagues, but all the time you don't get support from your colleagues. All the time. If you're looking for the hand clap and the support and the praise, even sometimes from your administrators, that may not happen and it may. So I really was never in this work to receive the praise. I received more gratification when it came from my students. But yes, encouraging yourself. I mean, I definitely had to encourage myself a lot, but I've never said
Mm.
I'm gonna give up.
Yes. Well, that brings me to another thing. In your book, I read you said don't let anything get in the way. And you talked about a student that had some behaviors or different things that got in the way of their learning, but you didn't let that stop you. That just amazes me. So and I'm a Girl Scout leader. I'm mentoring
Good.
right now. I'm mentoring kids for Toastmasters for speaking. And it's
Good.
it's interesting because those disruptions happen, and if you give in to that and you have that talk, it- one of the things you suggest too is not to engage so much with that negative, right? Or if
Exactly.
people have negative feelings about themselves or they say that they're how do you tell our listeners and our viewers about your approach to dealing with those people that have had negative eh, feedback on
Right.
themselves?
Basically, on a personal level, I did not deal with them, but I was very outspoken because when it came to the students, I spoke out. So if they were saying, "Oh, these children, how are they going to achieve a certain level when they have been, below basic?" How can you say what they never can do if you're in this profession? I would speak out very openly and verbally, in professional developments and leadership meetings. I would speak out all the time, but I did not engage in it. I separated myself from it. I stopped eating in the teacher's lounge, um,
Mm.
where, sometimes the conversation was negative in reference to the children or things that were happening at the school. And besides that, I had always had mostly students with me because they didn't want to be, maybe in the lunchroom. Sometimes it was not, sometimes it was in a chaotic state and they wanted to be in the peace and serenity of the room. And I stayed focused to my students, but the negative chatter, because it can bring you down. It can bring you down. And can it
It
make
can.
you think like, do I really want to do this?
I love that. Well, now your military background, would you say that had something to do with how you had such success of having high expectations of yourself as a teacher?
Well, I'm sure because I was military for 10 years and in combat for close to a year, um, facing challenges head on, not giving up easy, being a part of a team and keeping your eye toward the mission and the vision, even if you did not agree with your teammate, because sometimes, especially in combat, your little attitude or your dissension with your teammate could be life. It could be life threatening. So learning how to disagree with a teammate, but keeping my eye focused toward the vision and the mission of the school and for the betterment of our children. So the military definitely helped me, even in discipline and structure and order, because you cannot learn in a chaotic environment. Just like we cannot accomplish a mission if things are not in order, um, and neatly structured, great attendance because you couldn't call out. You had to get up and be in full uniform. Just um, the main thing, not giving up in a challenging situation and knowing that you could do it. Because I would have some challenging situations in the military. I was in combat for close to a year. So I
Wow.
survived that. When I come out, you're calling me a B and throwing a desk at me. That is not going to faze me a whole lot. I'm going to correct you now. Like you're going to pick it up, and we're going
Yeah,
to continue because I'm not going to suspend you, but I'm not going to spaz out. You called me a B. You called me a B. No, no, I know
yes,
that.
you can't be fazed by it. Well, that's amazing. Now, I grew up in a chaotic environment. So
Oh, wow.
when you said you can't learn in a, I was one of those kids. I was one of those kids that had that violence at home, that had that disruption at home, no structure, no stability. You wouldn't know it looking at me today,
No, you
but
would not.
I think that what you said is so true that when we face challenges, it helps us to learn how to adapt, how to become stronger, and then we can give back to those people in our lives. And so thank you for telling us all your stories, being so transparent. Um, that I loved what you said, never say what they can't do.
Mhm.
That speaks volumes to me because that by having belief in someone, it really lets them have higher expectations for themselves. Wouldn't you
Exactly.
agree? Now, if you were in the classroom on any given day, they're calling you a B, they're throwing the desk at you, and you stay composed, what was it like for you when you had that quiet time, when you were at lunch to yourself, or did you have to do anything to bounce back?
Okay, I'm just going to back it up a little bit. My classroom was never like chaotic. Like I said, I had a desk thrown at me. There was one student who was acting up. I mean, from the start, maybe my first or second day in the classroom, when I went in with 37 students, all different levels. I was new, straight out the military. That first couple of days was difficult, but the principal at the time, who was known to be very hard because you couldn't even sit in the class when the children were in the class, he put a note in my permanent file said he never saw a student, a teacher, a new teacher transform a class as quick as Joyce Abbott. But
Oh,
to elaborate on your question, when like a S was thrown at me or a student did call me a B, which was a rarity because I shut it down. I didn't spaz out. I said no, because normally after that happened, when the students went to lunch or class, I said, come on, you're going to stay back. We're going to talk. You know,
mhm.
so I spent that time. But it is important sometimes to USA. But I find that when something happens, I need to handle it head on. I just can't let them go home and come back the next day. Yesterday you threw it. No, we're going to handle this right now. What's going on? What's going on that you did that? I'm not going to suspend you. I'm not going to send you home because I care too much about you and your learning is too important to me. So let's talk. What's going on? And
Yeah.
that's how I did. But I did not do chaos. So I've never
Oh,
really had where my class was, that didn't happen.
wow. All right, right on, right on. Okay, good. Now I understand. All right, well then let me go back to the book. So in your book, there's a part where you had one of your colleagues ask, how did the student get all straight A's? And
Mhm.
your response was they did the work. So when you are thinking about teachers today and how to motivate the students, especially with the advancements in the world, like the technology, and kids have to be really better prepared if they want to move up to the next level. How do you feel about teachers being able to set the bar higher?
Okay, that's important, but I just want to make sure I understood you correctly in what you said. You said when a student got all A's from me and the teacher said how, and I said because they did the work. Very rarely did student get straight A's from me. What I was saying, when students came to me, they came to me with straight A's from my colleagues. And I'm like, how did they get straight A's when, they're not even performing at a basic level? Oh, they did the work for me. No, you don't lose a whole skill like that because it was extremely hard to get an A from me. And I could really count on my years of teaching students that got straight A's. However,
Oh,
that did happen. But when they did, they achieved at a level, and if they received an A, they were advanced or proficient, mostly all the time advanced on this testing, because so often students came to me with A's and they were below basic. It does not match. And teachers could say they did the work for me. No, it does not match. It does not match. So often parents are so happy, oh, my child's been on an honor roll since they've been in school. And I would have to say, I care too much about your child. So you definitely have to keep the bar high. You set the bar high and celebrate small wins, because so many, they don't know how to punctuate a sentence. They don't know that their name needs to be
Mm.
capitalized, because those are things that the teachers aren't honing in on. It took me forever at the beginning of the year to go through writing samples, and then just to do the writing conferences, to bring their writing up to par, and to have them feel proud of what they were doing, and have them
Right.
proud of what they were doing. But just setting the bar high, and I just think teachers sometimes it's difficult, because if you're setting the bar high, you have to set the bar high. You have to be compassionate, you have to have empathy, because you just can't set the bar high and not be supportive. I gave up a lot of my time before school, after school, Saturdays at the libraries,
Mm.
just helping the students to achieve a goal. But that bar, you have to keep it high for these children in order for them. Sometimes you're their only hope. In order for them to be able to make a difference in their family lives and in their community, you're their only hope. So you have to keep the bar high. And you can't be giving these A's if they can't write. You can't be giving these A's if they don't even know that they need to capitalize their name.
Mm, that's right. Well, I've heard of that happening even today, where the kids are making the honor roll, they're getting these grades, yet even in my Girl Scout troop, they don't write well, or their
Right.
handwriting isn't, and it's like a thing that we have to be aware of, that we have to really work together as a team. But one of the things that I was afraid of was, if even in the mentoring I'm doing now with these kids, they come up and they ask for additional feedback, and I sense anxious. I sense that they're fearful. So I'm careful about the feedback I give them on their performance, because
Mhm.
I don't know that if they go home, they're going to get beat, or they're going to have something
Right.
bad
Right.
happen to them because of their performance even. So that's a challenge that I personally would like to get your feedback on. How do we do that? How do we give them support and still be mindful with the knowledge that, yes, they might be facing something else when they get back home behind closed doors?
Right. That's where the building the relationships come in so much, because even at the beginning of the year, I normally go through my students at a prior to receiving them, and I build a relationship with the parent and the student. I build a relationship with the parent and the student.
Mm.
And saying, I'm not going to always tell you what you want to hear. I'm gonna tell you what you need to hear, because I care so much about you. And I even tell the parents, I care
Mhm.
about your child. I'm not going to say Billy can't even punctuate a sentence. I'm going to be honest and empathetic. And when I tell you the truth, I say I care too much about your child, but I can tell you what I can do and what we can do together so they can achieve this. But I have to be honest. I have to sleep at night, but I make sure I tell the child anything I tell you, it's not to hurt you. And if Ms. Abbott ever says anything that you feel hurt, that I've hurt you, let me know. Because I'm not big enough where I can't apologize, because I'm not here to hurt you. I'm here to help you. But I have to be honest. And everything that I tell you, you may not want to hear, but in order for us to reach the goal that I have for you, I have to be honest. But I care about you too much. And I would let the parent know this is what we can do. And I do see progress. But we
Mhm.
have ways to go. But I'm not saying, I will let them know it's not that well, he's not trying to do it. He's having difficulty because of the years prior. So we just have to put in more work. But please understand that you're trying. And we have to keep them encouraged, because a lot of times when you come down on them quickly, they're going to shut down. They're going to
Mm.
shut down and say, you're doing it, you're doing it, you're doing better. But it's so important for, alternate student sizes to be honest. But that's where the building of relationships come in. And I had to build those relationships. I would tell them, I care too much about you. I care too much about you. And they understood
Wonderful.
that. And I heard that a lot. This teacher really cares. She really, really cares. So that's why no one that people would come by when we would post the honor roll out to see who made my honor roll. They was like, "Oh, you made Miss Abbott's honor roll," because it was very difficult. It was very
Oh.
difficult.
Well,
But
that's wonderful then. Yeah, to build that relationship with the student and the parent, that's extremely helpful for me and for others I know. Wow, so that's great. And this way you can take that knowledge and set the bar for them, and let them know they're making progress and that they can do better and do more.
exactly, exactly. That's
So it's
important. Building those relationships and building those relationships and encourage.
yes.
I was honest with the parents too. I said, I care too much about your child. So,
That's
and that's where it was my colleagues that made it difficult for me because they were just moving, especially the well-behaved. Like if teachers had a chaotic class and one student was well-behaved, they just floated through. They just
yeah,
floated through because they were well-behaved. Well-behaved does not constitute an A.
right. So now one of the things that I wanted to ask you about was in your book, you also talk about passionate teachers and how you wish that they would never doubt those in their charge. So for a teacher to be passionate about, imagine after, semester and after semester, year after year, the kids never change and they get worse, as a whole with the slang, you name it, the clothes, whatever the differences are. How do you help those teachers who can maybe they can get that passion back? How can you help them get the passion back?
That's a good question. And if you lost your passion, you need to understand. I have to be very honest. You need to see if this is the profession for you. If you
Mm,
really lost your passion, because once you have to set your standard in the beginning of the year. Like so often, the rules and procedures are followed the first 2 months and then they fall off. No one's wearing uniform.
mm,
When my students spoke in complete sentences, but I had to model that. That didn't start happening in September, speaking in complete sentences. I had to model it and I had to be consistent with it. Um,
mm,
and when you're consistent with it, but it takes work. But if it gets to the point where it's after months and you have truly lost your passion, I
mm,
don't know any magic words I could say and I just have to be very honest with that. I'm sure it's something, but if you have truly lost your passion for this
mm,
work, I can't say, okay, you can go to this PD, or I can sit down and talk with you and I can reignite your passion. Just from talking to me, I know I can get your passion back. No, I can't. No, I can't.
mm,
You have to want it. You have to want this. And I try not to. And if someone has to encourage you and just on a continual basis. Now I found some that got discouraged. They got discouraged. They still had their passion, but they were getting
mm,
discouraged. They were getting
mhm,
discouraged. So I was able to offer them the encouragement because they say, I still love it, Miss Bit, but I'm just getting discouraged because I don't see me making gains, fast enough.
mm,
So I was able to offer encouragement. Look at your small wins and look at the small wins. But when someone has totally lost their passion,
mm,
totally lost it for the work, it's about time to think about another profession because you
mm,
have to have a little bit of passion. I'm not going to say you're not going to get discouraged because it's hard and you will get discouraged. But when you have truly lost your passion for it, that's a problem. Because
mm,
our babies need you to be passionate about their future. They need you to be passionate. I'm not saying you won't get discouraged, and I'm not saying you might not even think about giving up because a lot of I've one teacher in particular, she was really good and she was so passionate, but she said, I'm not being effective enough. I'm just going to, you know, take a sabbatical or whatever for like a year. So she's fairly new and just reflect because I'm not being impactful to the children. I love it. Maybe I'll do some EDs. I'll do some classroom observations just to see and reflect on myself because I have to be effective. I can't keep doing this and being ineffective because look, this is the only job you can have where you can be ineffective every year and still have a job.
mm,
Ineffective every year. And so,
mm,
what job can you continue to produce students that are below basic and still have a job with good benefits? You can't.
mm,
A lot of people won't leave it. They won't. So I told that particular teacher, you know what? I really, admire you because I see your passion. I see your
mm,
passion. She was so passionate that she said,
mm,
I have to step back for a minute because I'm not being impactful and I'm too passionate to continue on with not making a difference in these children's lives. And that took a lot of respect because everyone needs their job, they need their paycheck, they need their benefits. It took a lot, but a lot of people don't do that because you can continue to have a job. You can have 90% of your students below basic and you still have a job with good
mm.
benefits.
That's right. That's right. So that's great advice for people, for leaders and people everywhere. Actually, if you're facing something where you're discouraged, you're not sure, you want to make the difference, you want to be recognized, but maybe it's not happening, that we all have to do that. Take a step back and
Right,
observe
but a
what.
lot of people can't afford it. For real, they
Mm,
they don't went to school for this. They can't afford it. You know,
Mm,
some people can, but a lot of people can't. And then with the benefits, they just can't afford to give up the health benefits, so they just hold on.
yeah. Even though in small ways, I imagine in your downtime, you could still look back, make those observations, see how you could learn from others, such as
Exactly.
yourself.
Hmm.
You can do it in another way. And I think that would really be a great way to keep people from getting so discouraged that they want to give up.
Exactly. Exactly.
Now,
Exactly.
one of the things, Ms. Abbott, and I know I'm taking more of your time. I think I maybe just have one more question for
Okay,
you.
no problem.
In the classroom, in your book, you notice that the environment has a lot to do with the ability to learn and probably their behavior. And so, can you tell us, if you could bring us back there to your classroom, what was the environment like?
Very, very nice and welcoming. Had a carpet in the middle of the floor. I had a little area with like a beanbag, couch, lamp, curtains, plants. I did have an aquarium early on. I always had a refrigerator. I had my own private water station. Where get fresh water. Always smell good, always clean. Like you didn't come in my room and trash was on the floor. And my class leaders would always say, okay, even before we transition for dismissal or lunch, let's make sure our areas are clean and free of debris. That is what my students would say. Let's make sure our areas are clean and free of debris. When I transitioned out of the classroom as climate manager, and I would go into some classes for disciplinary reasons, and the rooms were trashed. And I would tell the students, we're not used to living like this. So
Mm,
what we're going to do, we're going to pick up this trash. Are you used to living like this? And it was like, no, Miss Abbott. So we're not going to learn like this. We're going to pick up this trash because they need to, for any adult to sit in a space with trash everywhere. When you have students, do you think they're used to living like this? And
mm,
even if they are, show them a different way.
mm,
Show them a different way. And we cleaned our desk like the cleaning staff would always say, your room is always so spotless. It's going to stay spotless. You don't have to come
mm,
here and be picking up trash all off the floor. And I would walk by rooms and have piles of trash that the cleaning people would. How does that happen in a learning
mm,
environment? I just didn't get it. I'm a neat person by nature anyway, but
mhm,
it's not going to be. I can't live in squalor and so forth. And we need to show our students better. But the room should definitely be inviting, welcoming. It's times that when they're writing samples, I would have soft jazz playing. The room always smelled fresh. And then even during our critical math lessons, a lot of them would be on the rug. Okay, okay, learning math. After I had my rules and procedures set in the beginning, you can do anything. You can do
mm,
you can do anything.
mm,
My group work, the students would collaborate a lot in their groups or even on the floor or either in my little reading section with the bean bags and the couch. I just had it. And then I had positive affirmations.
mm.
I didn't buy a lot of stuff from the store for my room. I would go in weeks early. Like a lot of people will come in the day of with all these things from the
Ah,
store. No, not only could I not afford it, I cut out all of my things and I drew my things and I did my bulletin boards and it took me time. And the first day I would
mm,
like have balloons welcoming them, making them feel special. I had all of their names on something, all of their names on something, like 337 Walks in Confidence with footsteps with all their names or the shining stars. And I would have their names. It was like, oh, my name is there. That's right. Or their
yeah,
picture, right. Yes. Just making
mm,
them feel special and tell them this is our home with mom, so we're going to take care of it. We're going to take care of it. And even when I was out, like which was very rarely, people came into my class, they were like, "Oh my gosh!" One lady principal told me when I was out, she went down and she was crying. She was crying. She said, "It's hope." She said, "These children are remarkable." And the thing is, I would get some discipline problems. They were disciplined. They were behavior problems every year till they got to
mm,
me. I just did a podcast with one of my students who has a podcast, and he was saying I was bad, I was terrible. He
mm,
said, and until I Miss Abbott, and it was like, well, what was different with her? He said she just really set me down and cared. But I had to talk to him, but he was going through a lot. That boy had a lot of trauma, and I had to understand it, but that takes time. A lot of teachers don't want to give up that time. Or I would see the students misbehaving, and I said, "You're coming to me next year.
Mm.
Foolishness is about to stop." All right, Miss Abbott. All right. I said, because
Oh,
you know Miss Abbott don't do chaos. All the
yeah.
students would say that, so it was known in the school. Miss Abbott don't do chaos.
See that? Well, that's amazing then that you had such an environment. Now, today, there's a lot of things teachers can do to look online and model after. In my daughter in her fourth grade class, we didn't know what to expect. We were new in our school district. So we go to the school and we got to see the room. And there were two classes. They split the grade. It was a small school, but they split the grade. So fourth grade, we went to the one class. She said, "Oh, you're not in here." And it was all bold colors and bright. It was not suited for my daughter at all. So I was
Right,
happy, although hoping the next class wasn't like that. Get
right.
to the next classroom. It was so subdued. They had nice lighting, they had the rug, they had the little chairs in the
That's
corner,
it.
the
Yeah.
reading nook, they had the phrases, and it was such a nice environment that was just perfect for my daughter who had ADHD. So,
Right, that's important. That's important. That environment is important because all that brightness, mine was color coordinated, very comfortable. So you're right about that.
yeah. And that's the thing that students are different. And that's the thing that I always have kept in mind. I felt fortunate though the challenges with ADHD, but I've kept it in mind that all the students are different. So I think if you keep that in mind, they need to follow the rules, don't get me
Right.
wrong, but if you keep in mind they come from different backgrounds and you understand who they are, back to what we talked about in the beginning, that, you can be mindful and help to make a better environment all around.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Even with the different label, oh, they're sped, they have ADHD, they have this. You treat everyone was treated equally. I don't care what you may have came to me labeled as with, we all are treated, you're not going to stand out differently. You're not. I made certain accommodations, in some regards, and some things, but I've never made them feel like, okay, you're different. No, no, no. And they just loved it. They loved it. I've had parents say, this was like the best year ever. You gave my child hope, of course.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, you were so personable, and I felt this in the book that especially when there was a point when you said sometimes on Fridays before you left class, you would say, "I don't know if you're going to see me on Monday," because you knew you may
Right.
not see them on Monday. And that just was so touching that you were able to connect with them in certain ways to just make them feel comfortable while still holding that bar high to let them
Exactly.
be that student and learn in your class. And so I'm so inspired by you, Ms. Abbott.
Oh, well, I'm inspired by you too. You're doing a lot. You keep up that good work.
Thank
You keep it
you.
up. It's so important. It's so important.
Thank you. Well, it's us who've been through things and we can teach others that they can rise and resonate. They have a message to
There
share.
you go.
And I'm so glad that you're here to share your message with us. I want to tell the listeners and viewers, if you haven't yet picked up her book, pick that book up. It's a wonderful read if you're a teacher or not. If you were ever a student, you want to read this. Even if you're new to a city or you're in a different place, you want to pick this book up. You will not regret it. The book is called Teaching the Ms. Abbott Way: Lessons in Learning, Leadership, and Life. And now you also have other things available too, right? Do you want to tell our
Right.
listeners?
I do have here set the bar higher. You really can't see the higher. And that's for everyone in every walk of life, not only educators. And they'll merchandise can be found on my website, the .com, and you can follow me on any social media platform, the Real Miss Abbott. It's just what I'm doing, going out here and inspiring and encouraging, because we're gonna make a difference with this education. We have to, and with people like you and other people, we could do it one day at a time. I'm a
Yes.
firm believer of that. There is hope.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Ms. Abbott, for being here on this show. We look forward to seeing everything you do, and I hope to see you at another event. You're a wonderful speaker and panelist as well. I love to be a part of your journey and can't wait
Yay.
to see what you do next.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. It was great. Great conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you.